I'm trying to get to the bottom of the ways in which children do subtraction in primary school. I was brought up using this kind of technique where you can borrow from the column here to the next column and just go through it basically simply like that. I don't know whether I was taught this way, but increasingly these days I don't actually put the borrow on the bottom line. I just remember that if it's there, I've got to make this 7 from 10 equals 3, and so on. I don't know whether I was taught that or whether I've just decided to do that as a lazy way of doing it. I'm told that children are taught this way at school primarily these days, where when you're borrowing into the units column here from the tens, you deduct 1 from the top line here, striking through and adding the number above, and so on, in order to carry numbers through to the lower units and so on. I'm told that's the modern way of doing it. I find it a bit messy, and particularly messy when you have calculations like this, where you've got to keep reducing numbers and so on. And so the whole thing, it becomes just a bit of a mess to me compared with the old way of doing it. I'm also told there's a way of doing subtractions by starting on the left and moving to the right. And so in this particular case, we're subtracting, taking the 1 off 2 initially to give us 1. Then we need to borrow from that 1 again in order to subtract 8 from 17 here, giving us 9. All right. Eventually we need to borrow another 1 from the 9 to give 8, and eventually get back to the 6, to the right answer. But this seems a bit clumsy to me, and so on. And it's very similar to the Singapore method, which is the one that's described here. It's a bit long-winded, but similar to the method above, where we take off from the right 100, and it gives us 173. Then we can take off the 80 to give us 93, eventually take off the 7, and eventually gives us the right result. So we've effectively taken off the 187 by 100, 80 and the 7 in separate stages to give us 86. A technique that I think might be used in primary schools now is the one of using mental arithmetic and doing additions and so on. So you're effectively adding to the number you're taking away in order to make it the same as the number you're taking from. So you're effectively adding to this to get this number, and it's a bit like the change you're given when you go into a shop. They'll add up from the cost of the sale until they come to the amount that they owe you back for the money you've given them. And so in this particular case, we're starting off with the 187. We add 3 to get to 190. We add 10 to get to 200, nice round number. We add 70 to get to 270, means we're almost there. And then eventually we add a 3 to get to 273. If we add up this column here, we get 86. And I think the theory is that most children should be able to do that in their heads using mental arithmetic, and so it's a very simple way, using strategies for adding small increments to the bottom number here in order to get to the top number. What all this means beats me, but I just need to be prepared to use and teach a variety of different methods for children, in quotes, of different ages. Wow.